Hello, welcome to Coffee Chat with Angie, episode number 2, where we talk about eco-friendly ideas fighting against the shit stem of the bully dozer. Hi, how you doing, guys? Okay, so there I was, back before transitioning female, a Jedi warrior, beaten routinely 3 to 5 times a week by my fiancée. They would rip my shirt off, scratch my chest, slap me, yelling, "You aren't even a man." They would then say, "You're going to be with a black person and let someone use the N-word? You aren't even a man." Slap me again. "You aren't," grab me by the hair, dragging me around the apartment by it, angrier than anyone I had ever seen until that day, on or off the screen. They made the Joker look like a humanitarian. Wow, I started out with guys, and I wondered, what's up with women? And I grew up in a family of sisters, so I was raised to never hit a girl. To the death. I did nothing. Lived like that for a full year. Things improved quite a bit when she got me a second job to pay for her to have another apartment. That way she would have somewhere she could go home to after a night at the bar. This gave me a break from her. The joke was on her other boyfriend, though, the one she would cheat on with me. He likely didn't know about her other apartment. It all finally ended the day I realized sometimes you do have to hit a girl. So, after the verbal abuse one day, and just before the physical abuse part would begin, I doubled up my fist and punched her once, dead in the forehead. During the days of my youth, when I had bully problems, I was punched and kicked in every part of my body. So I knew where I could punch her to communicate my message and not to hurt her too bad. And she looked at me like she had seen a ghost. Soon after, I was able to move out. It's hard to remember exactly how it happened, but somewhere in there, the restaurant I cooked at went out of business, and I got a new job cooking for a retirement home. At my new place, I got a dog and struggled putting myself back together. My soon ex-fiancée, before all this, my soon ex-fiancée was my bounce back from my dark days of heroin, stuff called crank, and my preference, smoking crack. And on the weekends, I would drink at clubs with my sisters. I had moved around my whole life, but the women here in Utah hated me. It was still a struggle outside of Utah, but in Utah, I ended up envying my outside Utah self. Soon, in the days of love bombing with this fiancé, things were good back then. It was an improvement to the suicide and crack. But wow, I had no idea what was coming up. But now I had to deal with it all at once. What should I do with myself? I decided to kill myself. I will leave out the details of how. But before doing that, I decided to pray, even though I was an atheist. The way I remember it, a voice in my head said, "Do you like to smoke cannabis?" "Yes," I responded. It continued, "Then would that be enough reason to stay alive?" I responded, "You know it would." That was 26, 27 years ago, and smoking cannabis, or at least knowing that someday I'll smoke again, is plenty of reason to stay alive. Not that it's my only reason to stay alive, but... So I completely broke it off with my now ex-fiancée. and the next day replaced her with a new girlfriend. A year later, we got married, had a son, and I was a stay-at-home parent. She was the one that worked. We found God together, becoming Rastas. When my son went into kindergarten, she left me for someone else, leaving me to raise our son. My son has been the most fun thing of my life. Soon after is when I first heard of transgender people. Like in 2013, 2014. By 2014, 2015, I had begun transitioning, going on hormones. All my life I had done what people said to fix me. I had given every therapy and religion in the book a chance. They helped a little, but only transitioning took care of the real problems. I learned how full of shit everyone is. No wonder they don't like transgender people. For the first time in my life, I had self-respect. I liked being me. I finally made sense to myself about myself. But it doesn't get said often enough how much harder life is out of the closet trans. My dream of living exactly how I wanted was now a living reality, true, but now for any self-love and respect I had gained, it was replaced with hatred and disrespect in others. In my first 3 to 4 years, everyone thought I was a prostitute. I would get propositioned 3 or more times a day. Do the math, that's well over 3,000 times. Who can say they have been propositioned that many times? Everywhere I went, people were laughing, some filled with hatred. As of the last couple of years, it has gotten much easier to be trans. Since the right wing and religiosos have finally realized it suits their needs better to play the victim than to make things difficult for us. All I can say is if you are the right kind of person, transgender as we call them, it is all very much worth it. But as the saying goes, a rose by any other name would not smell so sweet. Apparently, this saying has a dual nature. Because if you are not the right kind of person, it stinks. It is not worth it at all. No joke. For me, even if Trump wins and they kill us or throw us in prison for life, no matter how much violence and suffrage I might experience, it is well worth it. Turns out being authentic, having self-love and self-respect is more valuable than any kind of safety or convenience. The bottom line is self-care, self-love, and self-respect all start with the individual. And you cannot care for others, love others, and respect others if you can't first do that for yourself. And it's a personal journey, unique for each person. Who we really are transcends gender. It's not cookie cutter, one size fits all, black and white, elitist, or binary. In the realm of higher truths, science, and facts, most things are a spectrum. But humans come from a background of tyrannical control through authoritarian explanations, and spectrums are too hard to teach. And in this case, since LGBT people are sterile, we are not as much as an asset. Having babies means, or at least in the past, having babies means the ones they control can teach their lies to them for the authoritarians. Or, as I call them, the bully dozers. So, babies are an asset. But Today there Today there are billions and billions more humans on the planet than ever before. And teaching information has become much easier. So manipulation called propaganda has replaced babies. And free thinking has become the bully dozer's enemy. They don't want to adapt their alleged ancient rules of snobbishness. Any true scientist knows science is continuously adapting as we learn more. It has become obvious to the free thinker that at best God is within, but not a man in the sky. And we can easily prove any alleged book of scripture to be false. Or you might better say, no book is the univocal elite word of that supposed invisible man in the sky. See my playlist on the Kabbalah. It troubles them tremendously that living out of the closet LGBT works where their snobbishness is felt. And with the narcissist epidemic, narcissists being in everyone's political, religious, and yes, even the LGBT community, modernity has become a heyday for the narcissist, giving especially narcissists the microphone, like the hammers on Pink Floyd The Wall. But modernity can't replace the fact that it's an individual and inner journey. No one can do it for ourselves. We have to wake up to our own power and responsibility before anything lasting and effective outside of ourselves will ever work. It's ridiculous to think something is the ultimate truth for all because it's what our ancestors believed. Only adapting can really honor our ancestors and make their teachings useful. Saying it's a fact that there are only two genders is the epitome of their failed efforts. They say a trans woman isn't a real woman as if that means something. There is no need for a trans woman to be a natural-born woman if gender is a spectrum. If there were only two genders, then what they say would be true. But there is not. Science proves it's a spectrum. Natural-born man, natural-born woman, trans man, and trans woman. 4 genders. Technically more, but to have a functional society, 4 is our focal goal. It is wrong for a trans woman to steal the spotlight from natural-born women on Women's History Month, for example. Maybe we could have one day during that month for trans women or something. It is also wrong to have trans women in men's sport, or to have trans women in women's sports. Trans women need a league of our own, because it is also wrong to have trans women in men's sports. Gender is a spectrum, remember? As a trans woman, many things about me physically and biologically are female. Hormones, skin, hair, sex drive, boobs, and a vagina, to name a few. Yet, many things are physically male too. Socially, psychologically, mentally, many things about me are female, but many of those are male as well. I was trained not to cry, to shut up and die for women like everyone born with a penis. I was never called a princess, never called sexy. Naturally born females are taught to cry, express their own feelings. They are taught they matter more than naturally born males. The males go down the water and they get to get in the boat if the ship's going down. Female privilege makes for a different kind of person, as does male privilege for naturally born males. But what is a transgender person anyway? It has to do with our brains and with epigenetics. We are born with brains of the gender we identify with. Maybe LGBT people can all say the same thing to some degree. And the more we live it, the more epigenetics makes it real. Did you know there are transgender animals? And there has always been transgender humans? Some trans women have had uterus transplants and have had babies. If you give us the medication, we can start milk and breastfeed. So, if that's true, why should a man hold open a door for a trans woman? Well, for the same reason a movie star should be polite to a fan they wouldn't have sex with. Think of some of the ways a trans woman could love some men in a unique way because of similar struggles with dating women. As a trans woman, I would love to have a boyfriend, to fall in love, to love my man with all my heart, to have a fantastic romantic life with him. And that, along with all the physical similarities, makes me mentally and psychologically the same as a natural-born woman. Natural-born women are strong enough to open doors. Think about it. But this all takes adaptations, and humans don't like change. With the elitism of politics and religion, it is easier to just believe everyone fits into one mold. It's easier to morality police away the natural things by the authority of mostly fictional ones. It's easier to stifle all the alternative options to your own. Why legalize marijuana and prostitution when everyone will just do them? Why legalize ibogaine? It's easier to make believe scientists are paid to lie and Jesus will soon come and prove the others wrong and eradicate all the rest like Hitler.